Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today in the locker room. I'm Alan Locher. Guiding Light made its move from radio to television on June 30th, 1952, 72 years ago this Sunday. And the one and only Maeve Kinkead is my guest to help celebrate and look back at this historic show and her iconic role as Vanessa Chamberlin Reardon. Maeve joined Guiding Light in June of 1980 and graced the Springfield canvas for nearly 29 years. She was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series in 1995 and won the Emmy in 1992 for Outstanding Supporting Actress. In addition to her role as Vanessa, Maeve had a 3-year stint as Angie Perrini on NBC's Another World. I can't think of anyone better to celebrate with than Maeve Kinkead. Please help me welcome Maeve to the locker room. Hello there. Hi, Maeve.
I can't hear him.
Oh, no, you can't hear me? Hello, hello.
He's announcing to the people and you're not on yet. And then
Nope, she's... Can you hear me? Hello, hello? No?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, folks. Give us a second. Can you hear me now?
I
Can
can't
you hear me?
Did you hit anything? Honey?
No, I didn't touch
Nope. Let's...
I don't know. You were just on.
Yeah. Let me kick you out. Let's try it again. Oh, brother. Can you hear me? No?
Audio.
Hello, hello?
Okay.
Hello, hello? Hello? Testing?
What happened?
Testing?
He clicked something, honey. He's not you. If you didn't hit anything, he hit something.
Yeah. Here, come see.
What?
Ah.
Back in 1 minute.
No. Ah. 1 second.
Something's happening. What? Log back in. Okay. All right. Log back in.
All right, let's try that again. Sorry, everybody. Let's see what happens. I have a feeling this will work, so stay tuned. That was a bad introduction, so let's keep our fingers crossed here. Maeve and I were just talking, so it should work when she signs back in, and we'll go from there. Let's try again. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I swear I didn't touch anything.
Sometimes technology just likes to screw with us and make us sweat.
Yeah. Show us who's boss.
Well, let's welcome, Maeve. I couldn't think of anyone better to do this with. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you know, like I told you, to say that fans are excited you're here is truly an understatement. And so if you'll give me a second, I just thought I have to read a few things that I received in advance. Catherine Lund Dickey said, "When my son was 5, we had neighbors named Chamberlain, and he asked me if they were related to Henry and Vanessa. I guess my watching GL since I was 5 had an impact on him." Dan said, "Throughout her 3 decades on the show, we watched Vanessa Chamberlin evolve from the entitled blue blood schemer to a successful businesswoman and devoted mother. Vanessa was always the epitome of grace, class, beauty, and diction, whether she was feuding with Nola Reardon, falling for her opposite Billy Lewis, struggling with addiction to prescription pills, taking a stand against a business colleague who tried to sexually assault her, finding love with a younger man, or coping with the loss of her beloved daddy, Henry Chamberlin. Vanessa fought hard to protect the ones she loved, including Billy, Little Bill, Mindy, baby Peter, Matt, and Dinah. Despite her steady composure, you never wanted to be the one who got in Vanessa's way. Maeve Kinkead made Vanessa a character that we cared about, cried with, rooted for. She never had to be flashier over the top to steal scenes. She simply was the scene. I miss Vanessa and wonder what she would be up to these days.
Oh my gosh. That makes me sound like I was a person I would want to know.
Do you think you would have been friends with Vanessa?
Certainly not at the beginning. Although I had a wonderful time playing that sort of spoiled, very insecure, very vulnerable person. But I think at the end, yeah, maybe she wouldn't have wanted to be friends with me. You never know.
you really don't, right? Yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely. You know, at the end, you might have been too good for her.
Yeah, that's right.
Seriously. Well, let's start before Guiding Light. In February of 1975, you made your daytime TV debut as Angie Perrini on Another World. I'm curious, because I don't think so, knowing, your background, but were you familiar with soaps before? Like, had you grown up watching or ever seeing one?
No, we didn't have a TV for a very long time. And when we did, it was relegated to the basement. So I think there was a sort of message in that. No, I didn't know what a soap was, but I had gotten a job on a repertory company, the Barter Company, the repertory company in Virginia. And people who in the business whose, opinion I trusted said, well, why don't you do something you've never done before? And I had a chance, and they said, you should take the soap. That'll be interesting for you. And boy, was that an understatement. Whoa, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I really didn't. But
yeah, that's got to be. I really do, knowing, having spent so much time with all of you on the set and knowing how hard you work, not having any experience in it and getting there for the first time must be, a pretty scary.
It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And I was replacing a very good, very much loved and respected actress. So, it was like being shot out of a cannon and hoping that the grass would be very nice and soft when you landed. It really was scary. It was scary. And
who helped make it less scary?
Guess. Angie's mama. Mama Rose. She Kathleen Widows was, although I remember because I think Kathleen was cast after I filled Tony's place. I think that's the way it happened. And I remember I was waiting in the rehearsal hall and I heard this amazing voice and this sort of almost like an operatic laugh. And then I heard this voice say, well, these young girls, they don't even know how to cook. It was Kathleen. And I thought, uh-oh, I don't think I know how to cook. But as it turned out, we stirred many a spaghetti pot on that show. And there's no one like Kathleen. No one.
Seriously. Well, let's take a look at you and Kathleen in action.
Hello, sweetheart. I missed you. You feeling okay? Oh, much better. Oh, I'm glad. Sweetheart, you look so thin. I'm going to bring you lasagna next time I come, you see. You can't do that. They won't let you bring it in. They got rules here, Mama. Well, you better eat what they give you. You hear? eat it, I promise. Okay.
Hello, Angie.
Hello, Alice.
I love this actor. I can't think of his name, Maeve.
Leon Russell.
Such a good actor.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I remember. I
Very,
lost
very
baby.
smart. Very good actor.
But everything's pretty much a blank before then. It'll come back.
You had quite the head of hair there.
I was going to say, is that a wig?
And coughed for a hospital stay.
A bit, just a bit, but you know.
Do you remember why you were in the hospital?
I think so.
I
think I had just lost Leon Russell's baby. I think that's what had happened. Yeah.
He's
And
gone on to do quite a bit of other work, I believe, right?
Oh yeah. He's done a lot of film. Yeah.
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 I'm going to look him up later because I definitely know. Do you remember the audition or screen test for that?
No, it's absolutely gone from my mind. I probably, the minute I walked out, I probably had no memory.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, it's a long time ago. It certainly is.
That's interesting. I don't have a single memory of the audition.
Wow. Do you remember if you were, the fact that friends encouraged you to try something that you've never done? Were you excited when you got this part?
I think I was amazed. I didn't know anything. I mean, I barely knew what an agent was. Wow. And yeah, someone that I was sort of freelancing with sent me up for this. Her name was Gloria Dolan, and she worked with the Lily Veit agency. That was a 2-woman show. Lily Veit was Conrad Veidt's widow. And I think they were both astonished that I got the part. And then I remember I had to find my way to Avenue M in Brooklyn. And so that was also terrifying.
Trust me, I know that because I had to do it many times for World Turns. As I told you backstage about Kathleen scarring the men, one of the fans, Gabriel, just said, ask Maeve if Kathleen flashed new actors on Another World as she did on As the World Turns.
She would make remarks that made me feel that, yes, indeed, she had. Let me put it that way. And she made some very inappropriate remarks to me when we were sharing a dressing room. I won't go on, but you can sort of. We had a good time. Yeah.
What do you think you learned from her?
Oh, I learned to relax. And I learned that if you could just make it through with a lot of laughter underneath, that was probably a good thing, no matter what. And not to take things quite so seriously, because I didn't know anything. And so the slightest mistake seemed to me like, the end of the world.
So I would say you were lucky to have her as your mother, to have Kathleen Widdows there, at the beginning of your television sort of journey.
Somebody was looking out for me. I mean, there were so many wonderful actors on that show, but there were so many wonderful actors that had I been paired with, it would have lasted about 1 week. She was,
and that's what I mean, right? Yeah. Like you got very lucky, because who knows, you could have been with somebody who didn't care, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, there were many people in that show who'd been working for years and years and years and knew what to do and had very little patience with somebody who was so clearly a new kid on the block. But the other thing that was interesting about that relationship is we were both on the wrong side of the tracks, Angie and Rose. And so there was an intimacy between those two characters, because that's basically whom we interacted with. And the other interesting thing, and this is true, I swear to God, I had a dream that Angie had a brother, and I walked into the studio, and there was Joey, there was Ray Liotta.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so bizarre, and I kept thinking, you know, did I hear somebody talking about it? But I don't think I did. So, but it was like that. It was like this little bubble, the three of us.
What do you remember about Ray?
I remember that he was shy.
Really?
I remember that he was shy.
Man,
And
he was a good actor, huh?
he watched a lot. He never did too much. You know, sometimes when you're feeling insecure, you go overboard. You try and do big things. He never did, but he was very present, always very present. And we had, the three of us had a lot of fun together.
Oh,
And
I
there
can
was-
imagine if he was Kathleen's son. I mean, I could. That's
Yeah,
really
there was kind of a mother and son flirtation going on there. Yeah.
that's amazing. Having Kathleen and maybe having that relationship, you know, of the three of you, do you think that helped you at Guiding Light help the next generation when they came through the doors?
Say that again, Alan. I'm not
So,
sure I understood.
you know, going over to Guiding Light and then, you know, getting Brian Buffington and working Rachel Meitner and, you know, working with younger, newer actors. Do you think what you learned from what, you know, how Kathleen treated you, you treated the new people?
Yes, as much as I could, I did. I didn't have her naughtiness and her, which really always helped. But, you know, the other person who was wonderful in that way was Bill Rourke, because his innate kindness and courtesy, and he always saw everything that was going on, and he would always go up. He would go up to Brian a lot, and so I also emulated him in that respect. But I have to say that the vibe on Guiding Light was very collegial from the get-go. I felt that about everybody. I remember Elvira Roussel came up to me and she said, "Now you don't have to be scared. We're the nice show." And it was true. It was true.
Totally sounds like her.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, and you got Guiding Light shortly after you left Another World.
Yeah, I remember everybody said you should go out to Hollywood. That's what you should do. And I went out to Hollywood, and boy, was I a flop, because you have to be able to you have to be very comfortable in your skin, and you have to be able to go to a lot of parties, and I would go to all the parties and leave very quickly. And I had some very funny auditions, really bizarre auditions. I remember going for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and there was no character description. It was just a role. And it was held in it was a big complex, and the audition was in a kitchen. So when I went into the building, the people said, "Well, you just go down that very long corridor, then you make a right, then you make a left, then you turn around and and finally, where I was sent to was a kitchen with nobody in it." So I was just standing there thinking, wait a minute. And then I saw this troop of people coming down. And there was the director, whose name we all know. And they had huge bags of groceries. And they started to unpack the groceries. And somebody said, "Who is this?" "Oh, this is Maeve Kinkead." "Where are you from?" "I'm from New York." And then he took out a jar of Poupon mustard. And he took a knife and he spread some on a cracker. And he said, "Would you like some?" to me. I thought, I said, "Oh, no, thank you, but no." And then he turned to his people and he said, "You see, I told you, people from the East Coast are much less gullible than people from the West Coast. And then he said, thanks very much. That was my audition.
Oh my God, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's crazy. And did you have to audition for Vanessa with Betty Ray?
Oh, yes, I did. I did. But you know, she was so wonderful. There was something that was absolutely, utterly professional about her. She mentioned that she had seen Angie, and I auditioned for her. That I remember very well. But she did not tell me that I was the only person that was auditioning. She didn't tell me that.
Wow, that doesn't happen often.
No. So I think she and Doug wanted just to see the scene and see how it played out, but they were probably hoping that it would work, is my feeling. But it's always been so in my mind about her. You know, she would never say, indicate in any way, because it might have, you know, sort of made everything disappear.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to know more than you need to know when you're doing the audition. Yeah. Because things get in your head.
Yeah.
Could you have imagined saying yes to Vanessa, that it would have lasted as long as it had?
No. No, I couldn't at all. But you know, I think there was something about that show that I really loved. And I was in awe of many people. And I had come from academia, which is so different in every way. And it's, the selection process is different. So I sound like an idiot, but I'm going to say it seemed to be a little bit more homogeneous, the people that I came to know and love, many of them. But when I got to the theater world, it just seemed like there was a window on the world. There were so many different kinds of people with so many different kinds of backgrounds. And I got to know the people on Guiding Light better than I did on Another World, because on Another World, I was too scared to talk to anybody. But what I was going to say was, it was serendipitous to the nth degree that Vanessa's father was Bill Rorick, because Bill Rorick knew my parents.
Jill just told me that. I don't think I remembered that, or if I ever knew it. That is amazing to me. How did they all know each other?
Well, Bill came to New York and his theater career is astonishing. He worked with Gielgud, he worked with Dame Edith Evans, he worked with everybody. He worked with Tallulah. But in New York, he was astonishing. But in New York, he was very good friends with a lot of the early people who were on the early magazine, The New Yorker. And he was good friends with Holly Truax, who was the publisher of The New Yorker. And my dad was hired on The New Yorker in 1929. So their paths crossed. And it just, I don't know, it was bizarre. It was truly bizarre.
So when he was there just, I think, shortly 2 months prior or something like that, before you got there.
I think that's right, but I'm not sure exactly. Yeah.
So you walk in the door and find out that your family friend is Daddy.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And
that had to make it, the stress that you felt walking in to Another World, there had to be a little less coming to Guiding Light, having spent 3 years at Another World, but also having somebody there.
Yes, it was. Although I have to say that the character that I was playing, Vanessa, You know, she was a vamp. She was a bitch. She was that. I had never really played that kind of person before. So that was a challenge. And, but Bill was, especially in his early incarnation on the show, he was very wicked. His character was wicked. So, and his daughter was wicked, and he was proud of his wicked daughter. So that was a great help. So I would see Bill's eyes light up when I when I had to do something particularly nefarious. So that helped me. But also just, he was an extraordinary person in so many ways.
Well, and you know, your behind the scenes bond came through on air because everybody loved Vanessa and her daddy. They, you know, they did. They, you know, it was a believable, you know, father and daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, Bill did some things for us, for our family, that were just astonishing. You know, I miss him now. I miss him. Yeah.
I bet. Doug Marlin created Vanessa. Did you get to know Doug?
You know, I did not get to know Doug. And that's such a regret, but I felt like he had given me this character who was so fully developed and had so many different sides to her. And then he just let me go. But the astonishing thing was, her, you know, she was meant to be this ultra a seductress who could seduce anybody. And I think I came on in the show, I can't remember, maybe early summer, something like that. But I was pregnant in about like that. So I didn't even have a year of playing, you know, in slinky gowns and push-up bras and stuff like that. And I gained 60 pounds. But Doug fully supported me. It never even occurred to me that I might be let go. And as I certainly could have been, you know, it would have been tricky because you would have had to say she can't remember her lines, not she's pregnant. But no, and he did that with all the women on the show who had children.
Well, and to think of the women he created, I mean, Nola, and pairing Vanessa and Nola together in the way he did was pure magic.
Yeah, Lisa and I absolutely loved to work together. Absolutely loved to work together. And that the scene that was so much fun with the dress coming apart, that was like, I felt like an athlete, you know. I felt like a dancer. It was, and of course Lisa was a dancer and I had done a little bit, but you know, we were so sure and so we knew exactly what we were doing, and it was, God, it was fun. It was so much.
This really blows my mind now about Kathleen playing your mother. Did you and Lisa ever talk about that? Because she played Lisa's mother on As the World Turns. I mean, that's just, I mean, isn't that just, you know, like, how does that happen? Doug is how it happened. Doug,
yeah. Doug wanted Kathleen so badly for, you know, As the World Turns. And Doug thought the world of Lisa. So, yeah, we did.
God, wouldn't that have been fun if you know, if Vanessa wasn't there, but they could have brought you,
yeah,
the three of you.
Yeah, the soup would have gotten thicker.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That is something. Winning the Emmy in 1992, what do you remember about hearing your name?
Oh gosh, I remember so much about that. I remember David Lovelace, who was our truly inspired costume designer. I was a little out of my mind because my dad was sick and we had moved him my husband Harry and I had moved him down to Nyack, and we were taking care of him. And he was in hospice at the time, and the hospice nurse said about a week before the Emmys, I just want you to know that your father may really be gone very soon. So I was a little crazed, and I kept thinking that this is something that my dad would want me to do. And I remember David saying to me, he looked at me, and I can't remember if he knew what was going on, but he just looked at me and he put his hands on my shoulders and he said, "This is your night. This is your night." And I remember that. I remember that I had written a goofy little poem to read.
I just listened again.
Yeah, and I knew that would be good, because if I had to do anything, I could get that piece of paper quick. And I also remember thinking, this hair is really weird. They had done me up, and a lot of the actresses were really good about how they wanted to look and what looked good on them, and I just never really was. So I was lucky. But that hair was not my favorite. It looked like I had a donut inside my hair or something. But yeah, it was kind of a surreal night. It was.
Was your dad able to know that it happened?
He did. He did know that it had happened. But, because his world was so different, he didn't really know what it meant. He was just, I think he was happy because I said to him, I think this might be something he might be proud of. And so that made him happy. Yeah. Yeah. And Bill was very happy. So,
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Jordan Clark, one of the most popular and longest relationships you had on Guiding Light. It certainly had its ups and downs in front of and behind the camera, due to Jordan's addiction issues to some degree. How did you navigate that? And when did you know you could trust him again? And I know you very much did. You were both very close at the end.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was something when I talked about how glad I am that I entered the theater world and I got to know people that I wouldn't have otherwise. Jordan was a big part of that for me. I love Jordan, and even at his most out of control and his least handsome self, I found him just riveting and sexy and real and such a fine actor. He had that. I always thought of him like Gene Hackman. That he was just, you could just feel the grit. He wasn't performing. He was just being. The other thing was I was very naive. So I really, at the beginning, didn't realize the extent of his addiction.
Well, addicts unfortunately hide it well.
Yes, although he never tried to hide it, I don't think.
Wow.
I don't think he ever really tried to hide it. But, he was bigger than life. He was huge. He had, this incredible intelligence, incredible sense of humor.
He could learn his script like that, right?
Yeah, we never learned them the night before. When he and I were working together, we never did. We would just come in, we'd look at it, and he'd start, I'd start. It was like that. The communication was amazing.
That truly, Maeve, knowing, and I'm sure to every person watching us right now, that's why people love Billy and Vanessa. It was pure magic. what you created.
It was opposites. I guess I smoked some weed at one point, but just what? But I loved Jordan. I loved him. And when I got to the point when I had to say I can't work with him anymore, and I did have to say that, it was because I couldn't bear it. I couldn't stand it. It was too painful.
Mm-hmm.
It was just too painful. So, when he came back and he was okay, it was wonderful. And after the last show, I remember it was summer and it was hot and everybody was, so emotional. And I can still see him. We were in the parking lot and he came towards me. He just stopped and he just said, "I love you so much." I mean, that's not the way he said it, because that wasn't the way.
Yeah. There were probably expletives.
Yeah. And,
God.
I knew things about his life that I don't know how many people know. I adored him. I just adored him.
I don't think there's a person that worked there that didn't love him,
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, everybody I'm sure had different relationships with him, but he wasn't somebody you ever heard a bad thing about, really.
No.
I mean, this was something people were concerned about during that time, and that was before I think I got there. But definitely.
No, people loved him. Him. He was an open book, and he was funny, and he could be incredibly mean, and people would still love him because what he said was funny and true.
Well, it's just so, thinking about it too, hearing you say daddy to Bill and Krista saying daddy to Billy.
I know. I know.
It really, the hairs on my arms are just going up because of that. It's good. Well, let's take a look at you two together from I think this is your Emmy reel.
We're not talking about this anymore.
Just a minute. Stop pretending that I'm not in the same room with you. You haven't even looked at me. I told you that I love you. Don't you have anything to say to that?
Vanessa, I'm a married man.
Ooh, is that when he was married to Nadine, maybe?
I felt good. I'd like to do it again.
Yeah, I bet you would.
Well, I would. I've been wanting to hit you like that ever since you told me you got married.
That's right, Vanessa, I did.
Wow. I could watch you two all day.
You know what? I'm so glad you showed that, because I used to really haul off and belt him, and he'd have loved it. And we would laugh and laugh. He'd say, "Are you ever going to not do that?" And I said, "No." Because that's what I mean. He was so big. He seemed like you could do anything. And you didn't have to be careful. I mean, my character was always careful, but you saw, he's wonderful. He's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm so glad, I know, fans would love to see Guiding Light on a streaming platform, but thank God there's some footage of all of you on YouTube that we can come back to. And because it just seeing those things bring a smile to everybody's face.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch?
No, I don't. I can't. I don't know why.
Yeah, many actors can't. Well, I mean, you truly got lucky, paired with Jordan, and then in comes, Kurt McKinney as Matt, and creating quite a stir, the two of you. Jill had shared that story. I think you were sitting outside with her, and you had asked her, to, you wanted the writers to break up Matt and Vanessa to give Kurt more to do. What was your thought process behind thinking of that?
I was just, he had just come on recently to the show. And when you get into like a couple that everybody's crazy about, my character had been around for a long time. I'd gotten to do a lot of things, but I thought, for Kurt, it would be interesting if he didn't have to always be caring about Vanessa, if he could show other parts to himself. And he's a wonderful actor. And oh my God. The weirdest wedding in the whole world.
Yes, it really was definitely a one of a kind wedding.
Yeah, maybe that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. But really, I mean, to get lucky twice.
Yeah. Well, I think it wasn't even just luck. I think that the writers that we had on that show were very smart and very attuned people, the people who could work with each other and the people who maybe couldn't, but they might be put into an antagonistic relationship. They were no dumb bunnies, those writers.
They certainly were not. To do what
Yeah.
they do, you are not dumb.
No.
to put out that amount of material, you are quite talented.
Yeah.
Was there ever a story that you had difficulty with?
Yeah, I had difficulty with the pill story because I didn't understand. Actually, that's kind of ironical, isn't it? Working with an addict, that I had difficulty with the pill story, but I didn't understand the chemistry of it. I didn't understand how it was supposed to manifest, and I never felt like I did a good job with it. So
it's funny because I was a fan at the time that story was on, and it was before social media. And I remember, I think it was a Friday, and Vanessa gets in the car and backs up into Riva.
Yeah.
And my hands were like this. I think I called a girlfriend who watched the show, and we were going on about it. But it was unexpected because it was so not in character with Vanessa, but it was riveting.
Yeah. Yeah. I just didn't feel I did a real good job with that. And I remember having that. I remember that behind the wheel. And of course there was a stunt double, but.
And was she pregnant? Riva? I feel like Riva might have been pregnant.
Yes, she was. She was. And didn't she lose the baby? I think she lost the baby.
Oh, that I didn't remember, but that could very well.
Yes, but the weirdest thing, Ellen, was that the person who was the stunt double and the person who was driving the car, he actually ran over her toe. So there was something, I don't know, let's get out of this story.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was feeling like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to read a couple more things. PJ said, seriously tearing up at the thought of Maeve doing this. I hope she knows how much we fans love her and Vanessa.
Oh.
John Morgan, Maeve was always my favorite, especially during Vanessa's early years on the show. Maeve didn't get all the credit she so richly deserved for making Vanessa so entertaining. And Donna says, I have memories of Vanessa seducing a man, Jerry Verdoren, by dropping her fur coat with implication she was nude under. It imprinted on my teenage brain forever.
It's so sweet.
It really is. When you think back, at all that time, what does Guiding Light mean to you?
Community, family. It really was. It was a place to go. It's funny in that it's like a huge repertory company. And you get to know people. Some people you get to know them very well, very, very deeply, very intimately. Other people you watch, and you get to see them through this kind of scrim of the character, but you know them. You do know them. And when it was a big dance or a big, I don't know, falderal, it was just unbelievably interesting. Oh, so interesting. I remember Tina Sloan was always one of the first people out on the floor. And she could tell just by looking around who was interested in whom and who, it was that sort of thing. It was just the vibes were always like this. And, I came from a writer's family, and what you do as a writer is you're often alone. So, and that is wonderful too. And what writers produce is wonderful. But it was a very intoxicating and magical thing for me to be part of that show. And yeah, I'm grateful to do this today with you because it's been a long time, and talking about it brings it back and brings back really many wonderful memories of wonderful people. Yeah.
I'm grateful as well. Well, I will show this scene and then we can talk about it after as well.
And when he does that, he's a dangerous man.
I feel safe with him. Dinah, we have known him for years.
It's our responsibility to try and watch out for you.
I am a big girl. I don't need you dictating who I can sleep with and who I can't. Oh, that is not the point. No, the point is that you only love me if I play by your rules. If I do what you say, if I give up my own needs, if this, if that, it's conditional love. It's not love. Why don't you give me a chance?
Luther sent that in to me and said he was curious about these tour de force scenes that he described between the three of you. Did you all realize the impact these scenes would have on the audience, the reaction? I mean,
I think we knew very early how amazing Wendy was in this role. And I think everybody knew. It was astonishing. And it just happened so seamlessly. So, and it came from her, it came from her. And of course, Vanessa felt guilty for everything. And Ross had to try and be the one who made things okay, but you could never make anything okay with that depth of hurt. So yeah, I think we knew. I think the three of us knew. I know Wendy did, and I know Jerry did, and I know I did. So yeah.
Well,
those were amazing.
Amazing scenes, Mike, and they were so well written.
So well written.
Yeah. So well written. It was just 2 years since we lost our beloved Jerry. What are some of your fondest memories of him?
Jerry, I always, the first times I worked with him, I just felt lucky because he had such, you could feel his sense of humor and his sense of the ridiculous, but that coexisted with total professionalism. So you got both. And I had a terrible crush on him because he was so much fun and he was so smart. But over the years, what I realized was how lucky we were as a show to have him, because he could do anything. He could do anything. He could do comedy. He could take those 40-page legal scripts and make them work. And the other thing he could do was beautifully relate to the audience. During our Christmas show, he was our spokesman. I always thought that he could have, certainly he could have written the show. Certainly he could have been part of the production. He had so many talents.
Class act.
Total. Yeah. Such a good man.
To think of, that whole time, and like you said, you have big wedding scenes and party scenes. Were there actors, Beverly, Larry Gates, Bill Warwick, that you just loved watching?
Oh, yes. I loved watching everybody. I loved watching everybody. But the Larry and Bill's friendship was one of my favorites because those two men had known each other actually for a very, very long time. And it was a very complicated relationship, which came out so beautifully in the script. The other person I used to love to watch was Beverly McKinsey, because I would watch her and I'd say, how did she do that? How did she do that? What? Because she had such authority, you know, and such, and I was terrified of having to work with her because Beverly had an eidetic memory, and the lines she gave you were the lines exactly that were in the script. So in other words, if you were supposed to say, oh, well, I can't think it. My brain is too overwhelmed right now. But if you got the preposition.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
If you got one word wrong on dress, she would look at you like, what are you? That is not my cue. So.
Wow. Did Angie and Iris work together ever?
No, not that I can remember. But Vanessa and
but
Alex,
she was there when you were there.
She was definitely there when I was there, and she was the reason that the show went to 90 minutes from 60 minutes. It was because of what, because they had Beverly, and that was not good for her health. That was very, very hard on her. But the other thing that I marveled about Beverly was she had an amazing sense of humor. But she kept it to herself, and she had huge pride, which she should have had.
She should.
And did, but she was always ready. She was the consummate professional, and she had a really raunchy laugh.
How lucky for every I was going to say young person, but every person who had the chance to work with her, because.
Yes.
I mean, my God.
Yeah. It was interesting to work with her. If you were a person who did a lot with subtext, you could learn a lot from working with Beverly, because Beverly was on the money, she was, and sometimes when people do that, it seems reductive in some way, but it never was with her. Her clarity, I'm starting to blather, but I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. You mentioned your dad and your mom, the New Yorker. Is that where your love of English began? Because you never set out to be an actress. You set out to be an English teacher.
Yeah. It was, we just were reading all the time. We read a lot, and my parents' friends were writers. So it just was sort of like the air you breathed. But I remember in college and graduate school, what I loved the most was Shakespeare. That's what I loved. And I would read it and I would think, God, how do you say this? It's one thing to read it on the page and think, how did he do this? But then how do you get that from the page to a person, out of a person so there was always a link. There was always a link. But I wasn't. I think a lot of actors are pretty shy. I was pretty shy, so.
Were your family surprised that you went in that direction?
Yeah, I think they were. I think they were worried because, when I started acting, I was pretty old. Although in those days it wasn't that uncommon. It's nowadays, you have to have 1 year spurs by the time you're 15. But I think they were worried and I wasn't married, so I think they were worried about what was going to happen, whether I was going to wind up on Cannery Row. um,
Did it surprise you, the path you took?
It didn't, because I had this weird and wonderful time in college, and there was this amazing theater that was given over to the students, and the people I worked with there were Tommy Lee Jones, Stockard Channing, John Lithgow, Catherine Walker, you name it. And so, yeah, these were people that, that's where everybody wanted to be, at the theater working. And it wasn't like you couldn't get credit for it. So everybody did their thing, and then they went to the theater. And the best Coriolanus I've ever seen was Tommy Lee as Coriolanus, and he was also a football player at that time. But I remember the critic from the Boston Globe, Kevin Kelly, fell madly in love with Tommy Lee and came to every single performance. So we would all say, "Is he out there?" "Yes, he's out there." Yeah, Mo Hannon, who's another wonderful actor who was in Cats, just such. So there came a point when I really realized that that's what I wanted to do, and I didn't write my thesis, and I did my orals, I did everything, but I didn't do a PhD, but I went to London, so. And then I came back and did everything with an awful English accent. And I could see all the casting directors going. But I loved that year. So that's how it happened. It was because I worked with so many amazing people.
That's a large list. Yeah, absolutely. Do you miss acting at all?
I don't miss it now. And I was talking to my husband about that. What I miss is, I miss the playing. I miss the back and forth and the, okay, here it comes, bing, you catch it. I miss that terribly, but I have that with my 4-year-old grandson. But I wouldn't want to be performing now. I'm not.
I was going to say that's probably your favorite role to date right now. Are you Graham? What does he call you?
Maeve.
Maeve. Is that your favorite role to date so far?
Yeah, boy, I feel so lucky. Whoa, to have that, to be with him, to see him, to play with him, and to hear what he says and how he is in the world. Wow.
It isn't, I know this is what happens in life, but to see all of you from Guiding Light, Kim and Robert and yourself with all of these grandchildren, it's so beautiful. And to see how much the smiles that come across your faces in talking about your grandchildren.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. It's really beautiful to see. Your son has followed in the writing footsteps and is quite successful, and your daughter had won an award. It really is like dinner talking about writers and books, and my house is television.
No, not really, because they each did their own thing as kids, and the last thing we ever expected really was for our son to do that. That surprised both me and Harry.
Wow.
Slightly less so with our daughter, because she would lock herself in her room, and she had this magnum opus that she was working on for years, and she said to me that, "Mom, the problem is I don't know how to finish it." So I wasn't so surprised with her. But they do different kinds of writing, very different kinds of writing. Our daughter is a fiction writer.
He's written a book, right? Or books.
Yeah, Abe has written a book. It's really an interesting book. It came out of an article that he did for the New York Times, and he followed a team in Montana, the Flathead Indian Reservation, and that team was very important to the nation because there was a lot of suicide at that time. And this team, they had a coach who really spent time with them, and the kids spent time together, and they had something that they cared about deeply and that they would work as a group on, and all the families were there. So it was tremendously important. Yeah.
And he's written for quite a few publications.
Yeah, he has. He really, what he likes to do is what you call long form journalism, where you take a piece and you can really examine and go deeply into it. And
spend time researching and spend time with the people you interview, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I love to watch him if I ever get a chance to watch him at work, because you have to be very observant, you have to be very respectful, and you have to have your own thought process going about what you're going to ask next, and you have to somehow win somebody's trust. So it's a lot involved.
And are you still writing?
I stopped writing when the pandemic hit because that's when our grandson was born.
Yep, he's keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, and at the beginning, it was a world without language. You had to learn to communicate with no words because he was 3 months old. So, yeah.
Maeve, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks to the Guiding Light and all the people who made it happen over so many years. And thank you, Ellen.
My pleasure, as always. As always. Enjoy, and everybody, Maeve was doing this from her vacation, so please enjoy your vacation.
Oh, yes, we will. Thanks and bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Maeve for spending this hour and sharing those memories with us. Please join me tomorrow when trailblazing actress Candace Cain joins me live to tell us about her new series, Candace Cain's Secret Garden, streaming right now on Hulu. And she will share her memories of working with Donald Sutherland on Dirty Sexy Money. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And as you know, you can stream The Locker Room on your favorite streaming platform by searching The Locker Room. Have a great evening, everybody. Stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.